one last season. Welcome back, guys, to my F1 Manager 24 Create a Team Career Mode. And yes, we will be doing one final season, the 2033 in-game season. It's season 10. It's a very nice round way to end things off in this series. And I say end things off because obviously, if you've been paying attention, we don't know if F1 Manager 25 is going to be a thing. It seems like, from what we can deduce, it may not be. We may have to try and make do with F1 Manager 24 for the foreseeable future when it comes to a management style Formula 1 game. So my plans are, I think it's only fitting to finish off the series on a nice round number 10. I say this series, finish it off before we hit one big reset on the game. I'm going to be spacing out the episodes of this final season 10 in such a way that by the time we finish this final season of this Create a Team Career Mode save, we would have seen the IRL 2025 F1 cars, and I'm hoping very soon afterwards that there will be some sort of 2025 mod made for F1 Manager 24. And unlike the EA and Codemasters F1 games currently, there are still some amazing tools out there for F1 Manager in order to get the driver transfers sorted, get a new database sorted for 2025. So we can finish this specific Create a Team Career Mode series with a 10th and final season, hit reset, and then we can start a whole new career mode from the in-game year of 2025, starting from the actual IRL 2025 cars, the driver transfers, etc., and then go on from there. So if you haven't kept up with things, in the previous season, 2032, we were able to secure our second ever Constructors World Championship with Aarava Archer GP on my return to this team, of course, after a bit of a departure, obviously winning the second Constructors, but also more importantly, we had our two original drivers, Pato O'Ward and Ollie Bearman, driving for us again at AAGP, but we weren't ever able to get a championship with Bearman. We finally did that. We were able to win it with Ollie Bearman. But the thing is, when we came to AAGP, we thought the lineup we were going to be managing was going to be Bearman and Pulling, because that's what it was before we joined the team. And then the AI team on its own accord had transferred her out and got Pato O'Ward in, which was still a great story on its own. But so for this final season, I thought it would be a really awesome idea, because I know a lot of you guys wanted to see it, that we get Abby Pulling in for the final season alongside Bearman, and we go again. We see if we can get that third Constructors World Championship before we end out this entire series against a very strong Andretti, a getting stronger by the minute BMW Williams, obviously an Aston Martin team that was there and maybe tripped over at the last couple of races, and then we'll see where Ferrari are in all of this as well. And to go along with this final season in this career mode save, we've got some final changes to the liveries for various teams, starting things off with Andretti, the team that were looking the hottest at the end of last season. We're going to be seeing them permanently in their USA GP variant livery, trying to bring it home for the US fans. Of course, here at Aarava Archer GP, we're still going to be using our in-game made Aarava livery with the sponsors added on. BMW Williams, they'll be hoping to continue their kind of trajectory and kind of do even more, and like Aston Martin, bridge that gap and maybe finally go for consistent podiums, maybe some race wins, and with that, they stick with their same livery from last season, wanting to continue the same path they were on. Aston Martin, they led for so long, actually. They were actually so close, maybe at one point, going for their Constructors Championship. They just couldn't do it. It's time to go again and take learnings from last season, but they are going to return to their Vault Green livery. Really punchy and just a massive difference to what they had last season. Now, Audi, they may be a weaker team without Abby Pulling, but they were trying their best to claw themselves back out of a bit of a rut they were having in previous seasons, but they returned to their original livery that we kick things off with this team in this entire series, that kind of classic Audi livery that they kind of presented to the world, you know, when they announced they're entering F1 for real. Ferrari don a new livery, and this is a kind of what if Marlboro were allowed back into F1, they were allowed to sponsor on the Ferrari car. Well, this would be the result, a modern day take on that Marlboro Ferrari Ferrari livery. For Porsche, we've actually got the same design, but just a different color variant that is available in that same mod for the Porsche team. So it was red and black and white, and now we're going to a very striking, very different sort of purple and blue, very out there, maybe not entirely linked to Porsche, you know, in their inherent usual colors, but I think a really punchy, kind of out there sort of look for a final season for Porsche. And then we've got some teams that are sticking with the liveries they had from last season, just because I really like them. And to be fair, these are lower teams that we're not going to be seeing too much of, to be fair. If you kind of look at how the episodes go, it's kind of rare you actually get to see a full look at these cars anyway, but it's going to be the Alfa Romeo Haas, really beautiful on this chassis, I must say. The Red Bull Ford, to be fair, we might see more of this team because Red Bull were trying to improve, and there were a few flashes where they actually started to look pretty damn quick last season, so we actually might see more of this Red Bull Ford livery. But two teams we're definitely not going to be seeing a lot of, unless a miracle happens, but I doubt it, are going to be the Mercedes in a more darker black livery still, and then the MasterCard McLaren team. How the mighty have fallen, the Constructors champions and, you know, consistent front runners from the first few seasons, now all the way down last team. I mean, just showing how diverse this game is, you know, 10 seasons on, and the pecking order is so different, and a lot of it is from AI teams just ebbing and flowing. You know, like, we've never managed McLaren, we've never managed Mercedes, we've never managed Aston Martin, for example, or Ferrari, and yet those four teams have had huge, massive different fortunes over the 10 seasons, which I just think shows how good the game has been in terms of, you know, just that AI difference season to season, which just makes it even more of a shame, like I say, that we maybe aren't even going to get an F1 Manager 25 and beyond, because with this game, they were finally onto a real winner, a good formula, a good foundation to build upon. But yeah, I guess business is business potentially. And in terms of the calendar then for this 2033 season, the last one here in this save, we're mixing things up where we can. We're going to kick things off at the Qatar Grand Prix at Lusail for the opening round with a high tire weather. That's going to be a really interesting first race to come to with the season over the winter, you know, with various upgrades being done to all the teams, of course, and we'll see how they do and how we stack up against the teams for one final time in this save at the end of this video, as per usual with the pre-seasons. We're then going to Bahrain and then rounding things off in that first episode with the Australian Grand Prix, and then Vegas as the early US GP, swapping with Miami. That's going to be at the end. In between that, we've then got China as the last flyaway before we go to the part of the European portion of the season, of course, with the added usual quirk with Canada in the mixture in the middle. Then we've got a bit of a different order though in this European part of the season. We've got Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix, then we go to Spa, Monza, then Silverstone and Austria after all of those instead of much earlier. Then we end things off at the Hungarian Grand Prix before going to Singapore, Miami, and then two Middle Eastern Grand Prix of Abu Dhabi, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and then what has become a real lovely duo ending for the last couple of seasons in this series of Japan and Sao Paulo. Two tracks that in old F1 seasons IRL used to be season finale locations for F1. So to have these two in tandem as the last two races of the season has been really awesome for the last couple of seasons. Now, of course, checking out Abby pulling back in Aarava Archer GP, but this time no longer an affiliate driver, no longer just a super sub for one race only, as we had her, I think, in season 4, was it? I think season 4 or season 3. Either way, now a full-time driver with this 89 rated. Really decent. And you know what? Because when O'Ward got transferred in without my say before I came to this team last season, he got transferred in obviously in this slot. But this used to be Matthias Spinney. He used to be the race engineer for pulling. So this works out really well because she has already a good rapport with this engineer. So in terms of in-game, they'll work well together. Maybe not as great as Behrman and Howard because they've got a great affinity in-game, you can see there with that little denotion. But that's still a pretty damn good way to kind of hit the ground running, so to speak, with a new driver. Because if you get a completely new driver, that's always the thing of like, oh, they're going to take time to bed in with a race engineer, but we've already got some experience there, which is great. Obviously, around the team, we're still keeping up with the staff members we had previously. Obviously, ex-Red Bull guy, Pierre Wash. We've got Jonathan Wheatley as our sporting director. Harry was a great signing for us last season, so that was a really good one for us. We've got sponsor negotiations to do, so we're going to go for what's going to give us the highest amount. 65 for Earthlight. That's going to be race day targets. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Race day targets have been paying us out quite handsomely, to be fair, so that's all right. But we're going to go for the maximum sort of funding we can get just to really try, because I think, honestly, based off last season, at the end of it, Andretti are going to be, or they should be, incredibly strong. And then we've also got to be worried about, you know, where Aston Martin going to be, you know, because they'll want to come back and have kind of revenge almost of losing out to the championship to us. BMW Williams were trying to knock on the door, and then also Ferrari, they really weren't there, but Antonelli was still dragging them up. So can they actually give him a car to perform again and really properly fight in the championship? And then what happens with other teams trying to, you know, bridge the gap they were trying to do as best they can in this final season of this save? Who knows? Who knows? Okay, let's go for that. Okay, I'm happy with those sponsors. Nearly 120 million all total. Performance reliance is very high. Preference of the VIP activity, that's all fine with me. Up front of about 20 million. That's good. That's calm. So we've got about 26 million to work around, to kind of work with. And you know what, for the driver suits, I think this was our first ever saved custom overalls, because I think that's how I saved it first of all, and then we saved this one. So I'm going to return to our original design for this team from the very first season. Got 62 days till the Qatar Grand Prix, so quite a lot of time to make upgrades on the car, which will be obviously very important, because, you know, wherever the R&D chart is now, that will change up until the first race of the season, which is why we leave the R&D chart to the very end. So right now, we're going to go through and make some upgrades, and I'm sure at some point, very soon, get the email for the roster for this final season, 2033. And just like clockwork, there it is. We've got the final team roster update for this specific Creator Team Career Mode save. Let's see what transfers. Obviously, we know one transfer for sure was pulling into aarava Archer GP and O-Ward on his way out, but where did he land, and where did others land maybe for this final season? 10 years on in game. It's going to be quite cool, actually, to if you compare this to the very start of the game, or season 2's pre-season episode, and the difference in rosters and ratings and such we've got for these drivers. Let's go. Let's see. Are there going to be any major headlines? Oh, there is a major headline. I'm also seeing very nicely, Pato's landed somewhere very nice for him. Suits you, sir. Very nice. But also, he's going to be our arch nemesis then, or our main go-to guy that we're going up against. But look at this. Team signing that everyone is talking about is not Pato to Aston Martin. It is Franco Colapinto. Obviously, the 2031 Drivers' Championship. We obviously won with him at Andretti. We then beat him with Behrman back at aarava Archer GP last season. But he has officially joined Ferrari next season. After a 4-year-long career with Andretti, this is the start of a 4-year contract for nearly 39 million per year. So it's not maybe the biggest salary we've seen in the game so far, but it is Ferrari. They can probably get away with probably paying a little bit less for the sort of talent of Colapinto. He would obviously grab the chance to go to Ferrari with both arms. So unless they've got rid of Antonelli, that's an insane lineup. 2 world champions in game here for Ferrari, of Colapinto and Kimi Antonelli. But obviously for us, you can see with this first lineup of AAGP and the Aston Martin, who are P2 in the Constructors' Championship. So we got Abby pulling alongside Behrman once again to finally make that dream a reality for a lot of you guys who wanted to see me manage her. And we'll obviously try and then see if we can maybe defend Behrman's title. We'll see, or we'll see how well Pulling can do. But O-Ward has then gone to our main rival from last season. He has gone to Aston Martin. They've given Hadjar the boot. They've kept faith with the 2-time champion of Oscar Piastri here alongside O-Ward. That's a very strong team. 90 rated, 93. But you can see this is why it's going to be quite curious to see how Pulling does, because she's only 1 lower than Pato O-Ward. So you know, on paper, all the tools are there. But that's going to be very intriguing then how Pato does at Aston Martin. There were a couple of episodes last season where he was literally him. Like, he was doing so well. He was doing better than Behrman, in fact, to the point where we gave him a couple of parts early in those episodes because he was doing so well. Then other episodes where he just fell completely away. So he needs to kind of sort that consistency out, and that's what Aston Martin will be hoping for the sake of their Constructors' Championship. But on to the next two teams, which are Andretti and BMW Williams. So we already know Colapinto's left Andretti, so who's going to be alongside Charles Leclerc? And BMW Williams, so far they've been keeping with their lineup of Gasly and Browning, just for consistency's sake. Let's see if that will change for this final season. It won't for BMW Williams, but obviously there was going to be a change for Andretti, and that is going to be Victor Novak. That is not a name that I recognize in terms of an actual real driver in real life, but that is familiar because Victor Novak used to be our affiliate driver for, I think it was for us at AAGP, or I want to say maybe it was a affiliate driver for Andretti. I feel like it was for us, you know, but it could have been for Andretti. Either way, we've now got some fresh blood entering Formula 1, and this is quite important. This is fresh blood entering the team that's ended last season as the #1 on R&D. So this is a pretty big team to step into, basically, for Victor Novak. And to be fair, he's 81 rated, so this affiliate driver, wherever he was an affiliate driver, he's grown very well. That's a pretty damn good starting rating for his Formula 1 debut. Like, for context, Behrman, remember, started as 78 rated. So that's pretty good for Novak, alongside a 95 rated Leclerc. Very much, you know, because of us, resurrected his Formula 1 career, resurrected his driver rating. But Colapinto is still clearly quicker, but now he's gone to Ferrari, of course. BMW Williams stick with Gasly and Browning. Browning's grown to 90 rated. That's crazy. So great to see another British driver right up there. But it's going to be a case of, can they actually do what Aston did last season? Can they actually finally start going for consistent race wins, even just consistent podiums, because BMW weren't even doing that last season. We then move on to looking at Ferrari. Well, we know what the lineup is for Ferrari. For Audi, we don't know, because obviously they've lost pulling now, and it's going to be Hadjar. Hadjar is going to go to Audi. That's a good signing for Audi. That's a good signing for Audi. Hadjar did very well at Aston Martin. For most of the season, he was actually beating Piastri up until the last portion of the season, where Piastri really started to get his footing with that Aston Martin car. But look at this Ferrari team with the very dark rouge Ferrari red. Very, very nice overalls. Very, very nice car, of course. And so for this final season, what an insane lineup this is. Andrea, Kimi Antonelli, and Franco Colapinto in the scarlet red of Scuderia Ferrari. That is insane. And then Ugo and Hadjar. That's actually a pretty damn decent lineup for Audi. They just need to hope they have some sort of car to do anything really with, because even though they technically, I think, beat Red Bull in the Constructors, Red Bull definitely looked better in some races last season than Audi, I feel. Maybe I've just got bad memory. But we've now come to Red Bull, Ford, Alfa Romeo, Haas. To be fair, we're not going to probably see a lot of Alfa Romeo, Haas. We might see a bit of Red Bull, Ford. And you know what? Red Bull had a pretty strong lineup last season, so maybe they might just stick with it, or they're going to change, and it's going to be a very tasty return for the world champion of Teo Porcher. I thought he just retired out of Formula 1 or just left. Well, to be fair, where was he? He wasn't on the grid last season, was he? I don't think so. I was about to say he was at Audi, but I don't think he was. But then again, maybe he was. No, actually, you know what? It might have been Porcher and Pulling. Maybe Ugo's the one that's come back into the fray, you know? Maybe Ugo wasn't on the grid, and now he's come back. I think he may have been at McLaren. I actually can't remember now, but Red Bull, Ford had Porcher and Lando Norris. That is a very strong partnership, 1996 rated, but we know how good Porcher, kind of overpowered Porcher can be in this game with the right car. So if Red Bull want to actually pull up their socks a bit, that could be another team that maybe enters the fray for points-paying positions at least. And then Alfa Romeo Haas, while Tsunoda was at Red Bull alongside Lando, he's now at Alfa Romeo Haas alongside Liam Lawson. That's quite nice, because obviously those two are IRL friends and used to be quite pally in junior categories. Porsche and Mercedes. So Porsche have Jack... Oh, sorry. Porsche was at Porsche. That was it. That was it. I got confused because Porsche and Audi had very similar liveries last season, but Porsche had Théo Pourchaire. He wasn't retired from Formula 1, but now he's gone to Red Bull Ford, so he thinks he's got a better chance at Red Bull Ford. And Porsche now have Jack Doohan, and this is another affiliate driver. So Abby Pulling's not the only female Formula 1 driver on the grid. We've also got Delphine Giraud, I'm going to say, 82 rated. That's actually incredibly decent for an affiliate driver, again, like with Victor Novak, to debut in Formula 1. And she was definitely an affiliate driver for us, because I remember we put her on developing the car. So she directly helped us develop the car that we had last season. So now she's got a full-time drive in Porsche. Mercedes have got Gabrielle Mini and Ocon still, I think that is, and McLaren have Albon and Jack Crawford. To be fair, we're just not going to see a lot of these two teams, are we? But in terms of a nice, cool lineup, this is a very cool lineup for our 10th season of this series. And it's going to be a good way to end it off with this lineup. Right, now, we're going to put some upgrades on the car, and then we're going to check in just before the week before we go into Qatar in-game to check out the R&D chart. I'm doing an underfloor. I'm going to do I feel like rear wing or chassis is always good, isn't it? Chassis, and then I'm going to do a front wing. I think front wing or rear wing probably could actually be quite good for DRS effectiveness. Using all the ATR, so this will literally be the last bit we can do for this period before Qatar. Now we just traverse the calendar, and we'll be cutting in, checking out the R&D chart. Oh, design center fire. Wouldn't be a final season with AAGP without a design center fire. Love it. I mean, all our parts are done now, so we don't need to design anything right now. 12 days to Qatar could be a lot worse in terms of the timing for this. And there we go, as we get into just before, you know what, we'll get to the pre-season results here, just so it gives us a kind of a yardstick of like a flag in the calendar of where we are. Sponsor plan, our first one. I hope I can actually fill it up this time, because last season we had a bit of a weird glitch where we just couldn't fill it up. Oh, there you go. That's much better. That's good. That's completely calm. We can actually do some extra things and really fill it up. There we go. Right, it is time to check out the R&D chart. Ooh, okay. So Andretti took a bit of a hit, actually. Maybe they relied on putting upgrades in last season's car, because you can see where they started, where the ending is with all these upgrades we've just done. From the start of loading into this season to now, a couple of days before Qatar. So you can see over the winter in terms of where they were with the reset of the regulations and what they've done for research. They actually dived back down to P4 in the chart, and Aston actually ended up being P1 again. We were second place. So actually, we actually did worse than Aston at keeping our car from last season, but it's still pretty decent for us, because then with our upgrades, unlike last season, we've kept up with teams around us. We've actually out-upgraded Aston a little bit with that rate of improvement you can see, and so we're going to be second place, kicking things off. So that's a good place. We can actually hit the ground running compared to last season, where we had to really just dig our heels in, know that upgrades will come later down the line, whereas now we know we can hopefully start off the season competitive. That's good for Pulling, her first race back at the team, hit the ground running like that. But Andretti are there, and Williams are there. They've maybe not upgraded as well, because Andretti actually out-upgraded Williams over in this little period, basically. Ferrari, you can see they're very comically just completely in no man's land. So, I mean, if they continue that trajectory of upgrading they've got, they would catch the top pack of us four top here of Williams, Andretti, AAGP, and Aston eventually, by maybe episode 2 or 3 of the season, like round 6 or whatever. So we'll see if Ferrari can keep that sustained level upgrading. Maybe, probably not, but let's hope to see. It'd be great to see Ferrari with Antonelli and Colapinto getting in there. To be fair, obviously, like we saw with Antonelli and Colapinto together, they're so good, they're so high rated that, to be fair, this Ferrari car where they are now, that could be enough for them to still be challenging for, maybe just outside the podium, maybe the 3rd place podium spot. So we'll see. Red Bull, like I said, they did have some improvements last season, so they're top of the bottom pack, but that very much is a Formula B bottom pack there. But again, we'll see how it goes over the course of the season, but it looks like it's going to be Red Bull, Porsche, and Audi. Very, very cool. 3 different big brands fighting each other for those last maybe points paying positions, or, you know, whatever positions are left, basically. And then Haas, unfortunately, have slipped down in between Mercedes and McLaren to the completely irrelevant hole, basically, of the grid, basically. So compared to last season, maybe a similar sort of, you know, rivalry going on with Aston Martin, but I reckon we're going to see a stronger Andretti earlier in this season, and we're going to see Williams up there as well. But an earlier threat from Andretti means that they will be in the championship fight, because they weren't last season, because they just left it so late to get into a groove, to get into a competitive car. And then we'll wait and see what happens with Ferrari. I think genuinely Antonelli and Colapinto could be good enough as drivers to drag themselves into a bit of a fight for the top spots. But overall, that's a good place to start for the last season here in 2033. Guys, if you have enjoyed this episode for the preseason and like the plans of, you know, doing this final season and then hitting the big reset, then let me know in the comments below. Be sure to hit the like button. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.